I guess I should look at the annual report. Well, this says 2021. It doesn't say 165 or 166 years because this really is a historical day where we're looking at the annual report for 2021, which is the YMCAs of York and Lancaster coming together, which would have been 166 and 165 years. So, I don't know, I guess we go with the older number, 166 years. So 166th annual meeting. There's not many organizations that can say that, and I think all of you that have come here tonight, we're so appreciative of that, and it's just a testament to those that are here this evening. So we're grateful that you're here. We have staff, we have board, we have members, we have stakeholders, and we're going to try to be cognizant of your time, but also make sure that we memorialize, if you will, this first ever annual meeting and annual report for the YMCA of the Roses. So as we get started tonight, I want to introduce my good friend from generations ago, recently retired in the 2021 annual report, Craig Wolf. Craig, or Invocation.
Thank you, Larry. It was 28 years ago. Okay. All right, let's pray. Our God and Father, tonight we give you praise and honor for this first annual meeting of the Y of the Roses. We're grateful for the rich traditions of the Lancaster Y, which was founded so long ago in 1854, and the York Y, founded just 1 year later in 1855. And the Y in these two cities and counties have been serving communities for so long thanks to your goodness and graciousness, and the perseverance and dedication to the Y mission of so many who have come before us. As we celebrate this evening our history and our future, remind us again of our mission to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. Guide us to enrich our communities and all of the people who live in them by providing meaningful and comprehensive service. In our world, which is torn by war, by hatred, by division, and by worshipers of self, help us to be guided by the life and methods of Jesus as he loved, served, and gave of himself so that all people everywhere could live and be fruitful. Fill us with courage, hope, endurance, joy, peace, and grace as we touch the greatest needs of the communities we serve. In the name of Jesus we pray this evening. Amen.
Thank you, Craig. And we're going to get right into some of the recognitions tonight. Volunteers are the backbone of the YMCA. Way back in 1854 and 1855, there were no employees. There probably weren't employees till the late 1880s, maybe even the 1890s, until there were paid staff. So volunteers continue to run the YMCA at the policy level and even at the program level, and we're so appreciative of that. So first, we're going to have Jennifer Hawkinsmith, our branch executive of the Bob Hoffman and YMCA in Dover. And so, Karen, you'll be next. Doug will be next.
Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to recognize Amanda Garris as our Volunteer of the Year at the Bob Hoffman Dover branch. Amanda's son was in our preschool program this past year, and she was extremely beneficial with getting our teacher, Miss Lisa, the help that she needed, helping her son to adjust to our classroom and the other kiddos that were in that classroom as well. Amanda, being a teacher, she was able to provide numerous resources to Miss Lisa to help her get the classroom organized, assisted with morning meetings and reading, and was just a huge asset to our YMCA. So I would like to recognize Amanda Garris as the Bob Hoffman YMCA Volunteer of the Year.
And Amanda's not able to be with us, but Jennifer will make sure she gets that to her. So thank you, Jennifer. Doug Markle, our Youth and Sports Director at the York Branch, will recognize the York Branch YMCA Volunteer of the Year. Doug? Then it'll be Aaron. I'm just trying to make sure I tee you all up so you don't so far to walk. No, you're good.
Hi, it's my honor to present Jose Portillo as the Volunteer of the Year for the York Branch. So I have a couple facts here about Jose. He was born in El Salvador and in 1989 immigrated to the United States at the age of 15, where he settled in Arlington, Virginia. 1993, he met his wife. I think she's back here. There she is. And they have been married for 25 years and have two daughters, Carmen and Sophia. One daughter's here. All right. 2010, he started volunteer coaching soccer and basketball local clubs. And I believe it was around 2019 we touched base. Got Jose involved in our indoor and outdoor soccer youth leagues at the York branch. Back then our numbers were a little low, then COVID hit. Now the past couple of years, thanks to Jose pretty much running our soccer program at the York branch, our numbers are increasing. So I want to thank Jose and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we'll do it. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. And this is on Facebook Live and some other, so I think it'll be available later for those who have pictures and things like that. Aaron Farrow, our branch executive at the W. Dale Brocker Foundation, YMCA, also known as the Southern Branch.
All right, our volunteer of the year is Trish Gray. Shortly after we reopened from COVID, Trish became a very familiar face around the branch, both taking classes and just getting used to the facility as we reopened. It didn't take long for Ann Crow, one of our Rock Steady boxing coaches, to kind of track Trish down to see if she'd be interested in volunteering with that program. For those of you that don't know, Rock Steady Boxing is a class designed for those individuals with Parkinson's disease. So Trish, not knowing much about that, did her research. She continues to do research every single time she's in there, making sure that she's able to serve those individuals the best that she can. Even outside of Rock Steady Boxing, Trish will be seen around the branch spraying down the bottles, watering our plants, making sure the facility looks nice and is ready to go for our members. As Ann would say, she's the person most likely to help anyone out without even noticing it. So it's with our honor to honor Trish as our Volunteer of the Year.
Thank you, Trish, very much. Oh, a picture over there, Trish. You need a picture. Okay, next is Rick Wagner, our branch executive at the Lampeter Strasburg YMCA in Lancaster.
I'm Rick Wagner. I'm the branch executive at the Lampeter Strasburg branch, and it's my honor to introduce Doug Schultz as our Volunteer of the Year. Doug's been a steadfast volunteer and leader for the Lancaster Family YMCA for many years, one in which he jokes he's a lifer. Doug has served on both the branch boards in Lancaster and LS. This past 2 years, Doug has served as chairman of the board. Doug was integral in leading our board, keeping them intact through the reopening phase, through COVID, and then along with the subsequent merger of the the YMCA of the Roses. Doug will transition out of this role. Hopefully we'll keep him in some other role maybe for another year or two if he agrees to it. But we appreciate Doug's leadership and commitment to the Lampeter Strasburg community and the YMCA. So, Doug, thank you.
Yeah, just take one. Thank you, Doug and Rick. Mike Smith, a familiar face to many in York. Mike is now the Director of Operations in Lancaster and also serves as the branch executive of the City Branch in Lancaster. So, Mike.
Thank you, Larry, and good evening, everyone. It's my honor and my pleasure to recognize, where's she at? There she is, Jennifer Reinhardt as our Volunteer of the Year for the City Branch YMCA. When I started there in January of last year, I got to meet Jen pretty early on, and it was very evident right away the love and the passion that she had for all of the work and the programs that we do within the YMCA. She's a visitor several times a week working out. She swims, I think swims on our master's team. Has participated in some of our Group X programs and some of our small group training. But Jen just loves the YMCA, loves the work that we do. She's been I don't know how many year volunteer with the organization. She served on the corporate branch board of the Lancaster Family YMCA, served on the merger task force during the merger process, and has continued to serve on our city branch board, where most recently she's helped us recruit new members. So hopefully she can rotate off perhaps later this year. So it's my honor and my pleasure, and I want to thank Jen for the service and her work and love for the Lancaster City Branch YMCA.
Mike, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Mike. And now it gives me pleasure to introduce our board chair, the first ever board chair of the YMCA of the Roses, Gina Rupert, to talk about our Lifetime of Service Award. Gina?
Thanks, Larry. Yes, good evening, everybody. Larry already introduced me. I am the current and first board chair of YMCA of the Roses, which is quite an honor. I don't know about you, but I find that there are never enough hours in the day. And so because of that, I find it very heartwarming when these awards are being given out, to know that there are people who never have enough hours in the day to give hours to the YMCA. So I want to thank all of the volunteers who were just recognized. They give us their time and their talents, their service to the Y. Speaking of service to the Y, this is why I'm really up here. I'd like to recognize two volunteers whose contributions have been instrumental in getting us to where we are today as YMCA of the Roses. Jim Singleton's first Y experience was learning how to swim at the York branch as a child. He and his wife Stella have now brought their oldest son to the Y for his first swim lessons. Jim joined the YMCA of York and York Counties board in 2012, making today, which he pointed out in the board meeting today, his 10-year anniversary of serving on the board. He became board chair. He served on multiple committees as well and task forces. He chaired the annual fundraising campaign, and he became our board chair in 2019. Steve Kirchner has been a member of the Center City YMCA in Lancaster for over 10 years, visiting the fitness center 3 to 4 times a week. That's obvious when you see him. He joined the Lancaster Family YMCA corporate board in 2016. He became the board treasurer in 2018 and the board chair in 2020. Both Jim and Steve not only led their prospective YMCAs through an unprecedented global pandemic, but also a historic merger between YMCA of York and York County and the Lancaster Family YMCA, forming YMCA of the Roses on November 30th, 2021. I personally want to thank them both for extending their terms to remain on the corporate board of our newly merged organization until today. Both will continue to serve on the executive committee to provide guidance and share their wisdom. Jim and Steve, I would like to congratulate and thank you both and present each of you with a Lifetime Service Award for your leadership, your time, your service, and your devotion to the Y over these past many years.
If they want to say anything, get up and just say anything. Want me to handle it, or you can handle it? So these awards that Gina's going to hand to you is a picture. You don't get to keep them. So these come back to the Y, and they're hung in the YMCA. And we'll hang the one for Steve in the City Y, Mike. So we'll hang that in City Y in Lancaster. There's only one of these that we're missing. Jim knows which one it is. So those of you who know Tony Campese in the room, so if you see Tony, tell him to bring our plaque back so we can put it in there. Because I certainly can't tell Tony to bring his plaque back, but some of you could. So that's the only one we're missing. So, but this is usually, these awards are very meaningful. This is, as Gina said, to do what we did in the midst of a pandemic was really historical and took a lot of courage, and many of you in the room, if not all of you in the room, helped to make this happen. But it is also an award where we'll offer you if you have something to say. I didn't prompt you on it because then you would have had to write something. This way you would get it right from the gut if you want to say something. If you don't, you're free to go back to your seat. But I'll give it to Jim because I think he will.
Larry, I want to say thank you to you and the staff and all the other volunteers that are here this evening. It's not about Steve and I, it's about the organization and all the work that goes on behind the scenes. So, sure, we'll gladly accept these and appreciate the honor, but it's really about the organization and the work that all the staff and volunteers do across the board, and I look forward to the next couple of years of Gina Kruper's leadership.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I do want this award, I share this with Jen Reinhardt, Teak, Doug, Ronnie. I think Ronnie's still here. Those are all board members that I worked very closely with during the tumultuous times in Lancaster. Many of you don't know how tumultuous that was. We were on the verge of bankruptcy. We had a lot of debt. We had 2 employees, Cindy. Cindy Allman is the most dedicated, loyal person you could ever have. Because without Cindy, I don't think Lancaster would be standing here today. She worked tirelessly to get us through no leadership, no operations staff. She got us through the worst of times. And Larry, Jim, Gina, what they did in persistence and getting us to this joining into the YMCA of the Roses is truly incredible. And there's so many people to thank, so many people to share this with. And I just one quick story. I can remember one very difficult meeting where we were trying to get some financing done, and we were all on Zoom, so you can see everybody's body language. My body language didn't look too good because things weren't going all that well. But Larry was very persistent to get us through that. Jim called me the next morning. This wasn't when we were merged. We were trying to get to that point. He called me the next morning and said, "Hey, whatever you guys need, we're there for you." And I just knew that this was going to work because of individuals like this that were determined to get us together and get us through the most difficult of times. So thank you very much. Thank you for all your volunteer and work at the time.
Oh, you're giving it back, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sure.
It is the only award that we give that you have to give back. So appreciate that. So into organizations that have been around a long time, there's a lot of people that make it go. And we're a membership-based organization by bylaws, by formation. Why we exist in communities is very, very important to us. We're going to get to this in Lancaster. We didn't really pull that off, I don't think, this year yet. But that is recognizing our long-term members. People who have been members of the YMCA for 25 years or more. So I will introduce Karen Rupert, our Director of Operations of the York YMCA, who herself is a long-term member, as I am, I think. So yes, I think we even made the list this year. So Karen?
The long-term staff. Long-term. Is it a one?
Yes.
Okay.
Good
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. I too I feel very honored tonight because I've been at a lot of annual meetings, as Larry pointed out, because I've been around for a really long time. But it's, this is historic that we're, the YMCA, the Roses' first annual meeting. So the list has gotten a little bit longer in our catalog. If you haven't picked one up, I encourage you to do so. Or, per Joe has told me that you can scan the QR code on the agenda for this evening to actually look at the list as well, or on the tables there. So I encourage you to do that because I'm not going to read over the list of everyone that is a long-term member. But it's truly an amazing milestone since our merger in December 2021. Kind of in my mind, it showcases the longevity of two organizations that were not together, and now all of a sudden here we are. And as Larry was counting the years, I guess we're using 166.
Yeah,
166. What other organization says they've been around for 166 years and sustained the things that we have sustained or gone through?
And that's why I just want to draw your attention. If you don't have a book, I'll try and just share a couple things here. We have a long-term member for 80 years. 80 years. That's incredible. I mean, even in my lifetime, I can't fathom. I know that the changes that have happened just in the Y, well, just the other day, no, just kidding. And then 70 and 60 and 50 and 40 and 30 and so forth. I did see our long-term 80 plus is not here. And on the 70, I know a lot of those too. And the 60, I hate to say I know them too, but I did see one of our long-term members in 50, Jay. Jay, raise your hand. Jay comes into our YMCA. And leads his group of friends in water exercise almost every morning at 7 a.m. Is it still 7, Jay? 7 a.m.? Is that what? Sorry.
I teach a class since 91, and 32 years.
But I challenge some of you to go join them because they do a pretty good job. So having said that, I'm sure there's some others in here. As like I said, I'm not going to read the list of names, but I would like to say, has anyone been here besides Jay 50 years?
I haven't been here.
You've been with the YMCA organization for 50 years. Thank you, Matt. How about 40 years? Anyone in the room that's here been here for 40 years? 30 plus years? Okay, we'll keep our hands up until because they're going to get tired. 20 plus years? Ah, yay. How about 10 years? Yay, there's a couple more. And we're going to be recognizing some other people there, but 5 years? So whether you're a volunteer, a staff person, we truly, truly appreciate how everyone has supported us over those years. And it's, I think, everyone's strong belief in our mission and how we serve our respective communities, that they're here with us, whether they're supporters monetarily or volunteers or whatever they happen to be. So I encourage you to take a look at this. I wish I would have done the math of how many years that would be together, but I didn't think that far ahead. I apologize. So nonetheless, thank you long-term members and staff also that are here because we're considered members of the YMCA also. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. It is all about relationships, so those are very, very important to us. And it's one of the things that makes a difference in the YMCA mission, in our relationship in the community, our relationship with members. We're a small community within a community, and one of those communities is our staff. So I want to introduce Megan Hill, our HR director, to talk about some staff milestones. Megan?
Hi everybody, good evening. So I get the honor of talking about our staff and talking about some milestone awards. Just so you know, now our staff is combined with our two counties. We have officially gone over 500 employees. Of course, this is with our seasonal staff, but that's a pretty big number now that we've hit. So thank you all to our wonderful staff who's been working really hard to recruit and to hire. This is a really tough market, but we are still going strong and we're still hiring and people are still coming to the YMCA because we're a great place to work and we provide awesome programs. And looking out and seeing some of the people here that I know are in our awesome programs and working hard, and I appreciate that. So I do have by our branches our awards by years of service. I know at least one person is here, but I'm going to go by branch, and if somebody else is here that I, for some reason, did not see, please come on up and get your certificate and your PIN. So I'm going to start with our York branch. Amy Sipe for 5 years of service. Thank you. And also with 5 years of service at the York branch, in our wellness department, it was also Amy Bernard, Evelyn Price, and Michelle Thomas. I'm sorry, Michelle Thomas is 10 years. Any of those here? Okay. And then Cheryl Hibner for 5 years. She's at our front desk. Miss Cheryl loyal employee at the front desk, first thing in the morning if you're ever there. She's always there with us. Okay, and then our Southern Branch, Christine Johns, 15 years of service. At our LS branch with 5 years of service, Irene Blantz. And at our Dover branch, 5 years of service, Michelle Bankert, and also Jana Ziegler. And then with 30 years of service, unfortunately she was not able to make it this evening, but Linda Higgins, 30 years of service. And then at our City Center branch, we had 2 people with 5 years of service, Eileen Torres, Leslie Steimling, and then with 10 years of service, Christine Nyes, and then also with 30 years of service, Mary King Linares. So if you know any of those employees, if you're out and around, if you see them, please congratulate them. We appreciate their time with us at the Y, and thank you all.
Thank you, Megan. We'll make sure that they get those nice certificates too. Appreciate that. And appreciate the work that Megan and Jess Garner have done on our HR team. As she said, that was an understatement to say this has been a difficult market in hiring, recruiting, hiring, retaining, compensating employees. So we're very fortunate for that. Next on our agenda is the Board Development Report. This is where we recognize or renominate board members, and you as members, that's everybody who's here, votes on that new board. As a membership-based organization, as per our bylaws, new board members are brought in, nominated through the board development process at this annual meeting. So I'm going to make the motion of the 8 folks that are going to be nominated to the class of 2025. It is a 3-year term. 5 of those board members are renewing their terms, and 3 of them will be new. So I'll introduce the first 5. If you're here, I think most of you are. I might just saw Teak leave, but I'm not sure. But the other ones that are here. So nominated to the class of 2025 with renewing terms are Katie Callahan. Katie still here? Oh, yeah. Oh. Raise your hand or stand. Okay, Katie Callahan. Okay. I wasn't going to say anything, but okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Raise your hand, we know. Amy Dahl from over here is renewing a term. Teak Drummond from Lancaster General Hospital.
Teak stepped out.
Okay, Teak stepped out. Ronnie Medlock from High Industries in Lancaster also had to leave. And Keith Sheffer, back here, Keith, class of 2025. And 3 to their first term, Lonnie Burtis Smith. Lonnie will be new to the board. She's the CEO of Hanover Auto Group. Her and her family, though, live in Spring Grove, and her children attend Spring Grove, and many of you know about the Spring Grove potential project that we're working on there. Estebany Jimenez Turns, I think Estebany's here. Yes, thank you. She called and made the trip all the way over here from Lancaster and knew she was going to be a few minutes late, but thank you for coming over. Estebany works as, do I have this right, talent manager in Spring Grove. The school district of Lancaster. I said Spring Grove. Sorry about that. And Chris Wiseman, I know Chris is here. Chris still here?
He left.
Oh, Chris left? Okay, Chris Wiseman, who his family owns the company HR Pharmaceuticals here in York. So I will make the motion. As a member of the board, I'm a non-voting member, but I will make the motion to the class of 25, and I'll go through them again. Katie Callahan, Amy Dahl, Robert Drummond, Ronnie Medlock, Keith Sheffer, Lonnie Smith, Estebany Turns, and Chris Wiseman. I'm sorry? No, Josh is already in. Yeah. Yeah, we're not letting Josh get away. Yeah. He's penciled in for like next 10 years. So I'll make the motion. We just need a second of the motion. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those not in favor, same sign. Welcome aboard. Thank you. And now we'll get into, yes, please. And now we'll talk about our retiring board members. Gina?
I don't know what order. Does it matter? Okay.
So we have 3 board members that are retiring from the board as of today, which is sad, but I've already introduced 2 of them. Jim Singleton is one. He's retiring after 10 years of service on the board and our immediate past board chair. Our second board member that's retiring is Steve Kirchner, who I introduced prior, and he is the immediate past chair of the Lancaster Family Y. And again, those 2 were very instrumental in bringing us to YMCA of the Roses. And then our third board member that is retiring is Dave Elder. And Dave has served as the chair of our finance committee, treasurer of the executive committee, and I can't say enough good things about Dave. I've actually watched him, and I've been trying to learn from him because I love the way he runs his meetings. So anyway, we'll miss you all. We appreciate everything that you've done over these many years. That's all I have to say, but I think a round of applause is in order. Do we have something for you? Oh, for Dave.
I'll let you do it. So Dave, we do have something for you, if you could come up. Jim and Steve got something at the most memorable plaque presentation ever at the meeting at the Buffalo Crossroads when I fell off the chair and about half killed myself when my coat got caught in the back of the chair. It's a funny story because I remember to the day I died, the only thing I saw when I was going back over the chair holding on to the plaque was Cindy Almond's face of horror. And so it was a memorable experience. So Dave and Steve both did get plaques, so we plaqued them for sure. They got them a couple months ago. And but we did not express our appreciation to Dave by having that plaque, and make sure you hang that up at the outer. And you don't have to give this one back. That's one you get, so you get to keep that.
And because I didn't actually look at the plaque, had I looked at it, I would know that Dave has been on the board for 8 years, since 2014, and he was a treasurer since 2019. Dave, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Now we're in the annual report review. Gina.
Never has notes. I think we're going to do a 2021 year in review here. But before I give you that overview, I want to thank all the members, the volunteers, our supporters, the staff, and in particular this year, or in 2021 into 2022, the finance team, Cindy and Sean. You guys have done an amazing job, so thank you for that. And I have to include Larry here too. That sounds terrible. I want to thank Larry for his leadership, because honestly, everything that I'm about to tell you would not have been possible without all of those people and all the efforts that they have put towards what we've done. Our mission at the Y is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And I'm sorry I can't seem to get this in the sweet spot so that you can hear me all the time. We exist to develop and practice the principles of faith, hope, love, honesty, respect, and responsibility. That's why the Y is here. When I met with one of our new board members, she told me that she was honored to serve on the Y board because the values of the Y aligned so closely with hers. And I'm guessing that most of you feel the same way. Those core values of care, respect, responsibility, honesty, and passion for excellence, they were very much her own, they're very much mine, and again, I'm guessing they're very much yours. The Y's areas of impact are youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. And we seek to build community by reaching out to welcome people of every identity, background, and belief. I have come to realize that many people have not heard about many programs offered by the Y in those areas of impact. And, well, I'm going to talk about it later, but so I'd like to highlight some of the programs and the impact that they made in 2021. Youth development includes pre-K for all, Y Achievers, which is a college prep, or I'm going to maybe call it more of a high school prep because it's for people intending to go to college, but also people who are not intending to go to college just to prepare themselves for the workforce. And summer camps, sports, childcare, and more. In 2021, over 125 kids received early education through our free or reduced pre-K programs, preparing them for kindergarten and beyond that. 684 children attended summer camp at the various YMCA camps and specialty camps. More than 950 kids participated in youth sports programs and exercise classes, which helped them stay active, create friendships, and build confidence. And I'm thinking those are all really good things. On the tail end, I'm hoping, the tail end of COVID, and also in the era of screens. You know, kids are always looking at screens, so how great it is that the YMCA gives them avenues to get out there and be active. In the area of healthy living, nearly 2,000 people registered for and attended group classes, exercise classes, and various team sports, including pickleball. Can I have a show of hands of who plays pickleball? You know what? And that's shocking to me because I know so many people now who play pickleball, and I feel like I'm missing out because I'm not playing pickleball because everybody has such good things to say about it. It also makes me wonder if we need a youth pickleball league. Give them another reason to get out there. Hundreds of cancer survivors discovered a support community through Live Strong at the YMCA. And thanks to the dollars raised by the marathon and half marathon and the golf outings and the gala, those cancer survivors received that support at no cost to them. 1,080 children learned to swim, and 1,332 seniors were able to remain active by attending the active older adult classes. There are also wellness services offered for professional health guidance and free or affordable programs for individuals with chronic illness, such as rock steady boxing for people that have Parkinson's disease. And if you attended last year's annual meeting, you would have heard Anne give a wonderful presentation on rock steady boxing. Social responsibility is the third area where the Y makes a huge impact in the community. Keeping the goal in mind to make sure that everyone in York and Lancaster have a healthy spirit, mind, and body. In 2021, over 120 homeless men found support and a place to call their own in the men's residence, many of whom have now entered the workforce. 3,678 community members received financial assistance and access to the Daily Choice Food Pantry offered by Southern Community Services. 3,712 newcomers to our community found the support and resources that they need at the New American Welcome Center. 2021 was indeed an exciting and transformative year. There are several projects that were accomplished in 2021 that are worth noting. Probably most exciting was seeing a 166-year-old Y from a red rose city and a 165-year-old Y from the white rose city come together to form a regional YMCA. Through a management agreement between the YMCA of York County and Lancaster Family YMCA to share resources it became apparent that there were a lot of synergies between these two YMCAs. An merger task force was formed after several months of due diligence focusing on program services and membership, insurance, risk management, building and grounds, staff structure, HR, personnel, finance, and governance and organizational structure. The task force made a recommendation to the board that the YMCA should merge, which happened on November 30th, 2021. We now have a combined corporate board of directors with a minimum of 8 of our 24 board members from each county. So we will always have at least 8 board members from Lancaster and at least 8 board members from York. We also broke ground and hosted a grand opening for an urban community park right in the back of the York branch of the YMCA. And that provides a place for children to play and stay active and just be safe in a community where there aren't a whole lot of places like that for them to go. YMCA of the Roses opened Tech Rev York, its new STEM resource hub, which will become a key component in youth development programs and also work development. Taking a look at the major projects that are happening now, the New American Welcome Center is working to empower immigrants through direct assistance, case management, and inclusive building events like Welcome Week. Classes continue expanding, improving, and becoming more accessible to our members in the chronic illness programs. Youth Tech is a summer STEM education program for teens. Those who are not college-bound can receive professional training for the workforce, and potential college-bound students can have access to the technological equipment at Tech Rev that they wouldn't necessarily have at their schools. We are expanding youth development in Lancaster. We currently have a great pre-K and early childhood program in Lancaster, but we're expanding that to add Y Achievers. And following the merger and looking towards the future and the impact that COVID had on our youth and communities, the board has formed a strategic planning committee. We're revisiting our real-time strategic plan. We're currently in the process of gaining input from community members through 10 community forums. And that will help us to formulate a statement that describes what the YMCA of the Roses impact should be as a regional Y moving forward. We will determine what the really big questions are that need to be addressed and how our Y should respond, and also what our strategic advantages are. We will formulate a strategy screen, which will be the tool for determining in advance what criteria for ensuring that any new strategy that we consider is consistent with our Y's core identity. We have some growth opportunities in the future. Larry mentioned Spring Grove. It's getting close. We have a couple of things that we need to iron out, but Spring Grove is getting close. And our new opportunities generally start with, there's a need somewhere, what can the Y do to help? And in Spring Grove, we were basically invited into that community because there is a need and they thought the Y was the best organization to fulfill it. We also have an opportunity in Mannheim, based on a need in Mannheim. And that strategy screen that I was just talking about really will help us determine if those adventures are follow our core identity. Is it something that our YMCA of the Roses should be doing? That's all I have.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you very much for your leadership. And now we'll have the esteemed Cindy Allman come up and give a finance report Everybody's been talking about Cindy. This is the real Cindy Alma right here. And really, to the point that we've been making, so many staff and board members make this thing work, but it's been a real challenge, and we do appreciate the work of Cindy and her team. So, the finance report.
Thank you. I am going to review the 2021 financial statements, which you are going to see up here. I wasn't sure. Good job. So we are just now wrapping up the 2021 financial audit. For context, I am comparing to 2020, just so you have a little something for comparison, so it gives a little meaning to those numbers. I'm going to summarize those results for the year. I'm going to focus on two statements, the statement of financial position and the statement of activities. Before I get into the numbers, I want to mention that we are anticipating that we'll get an unmodified opinion on the consolidated financial statements, but as I mentioned, they're not quite issued yet. This year, you've heard a lot about what has been going on with the year. There's three main items that are informing those financial statements. First one is really the COVID recovery. So that's had a major impact on the statements and the changes that you'll see between the 2 years. The financing that we did that really allowed us to go through the merger, and then the acquisition that we had for Lancaster. So specifically with the COVID recovery, we had the facility shut down in 2020. So that had a major impact on our performance in that year. And then for all of 2021, we were reopened. So much better performance that you're going to see in that year. In financing, so we had new debt that we issued on November 29th, a new tax-exempt notes that we issued for $4.8 million, and we repaid $700,000. Doing this really allowed us then to go on and do the acquisition of Lancaster. And then, so that third item, the acquisition of Lancaster, that closed then the next day on November 30th. And what we did there was York made a contribution of $3.2 million to Lancaster. We used that money to repay the Lancaster debt that you heard Steve mentioned, where Lancaster had way too much debt. So we were able to use those funds, pay down the Lancaster debt, and then the merger was affected. So all of those things just sort of one rolled into another item. And as I go through the numbers, you'll see how that really tells the story one year compared to the next. So moving into the statement of financial position, which is what I really like to call the balance sheet. Assets increased $16.3 million, or 50% year over year, moving from $32.4 million to $48.7 million. It's quite an increase. Some highlights in those line items: cash increased $2.6 million to $3.1 million, and we're still holding about that number throughout this year. $1.6 million actually came from the Lancaster acquisition. So seems kind of odd. We talk about how Lancaster was almost bankrupt and we came into the company with $1.6 million. But PPP really provides a lot of funding for companies, and Lancaster had gotten 2 loans, one of which was partially forgiven, one which was fully forgiven. And we were really coming out of all of that quite strongly. So we brought that much cash into the balance sheet. And the rest from the financing, we had extra cash from that, and a full year of operations all lent ourselves to a stronger cash position. Promises to give decreased $900,000 to $2.6 million from the prior year. We collected scheduled outstanding balances, and that reduced the balance, but then Lancaster brought over outstanding balances of $230,000, And that was primarily from our Save the Y campaign and multi-year pledges. So we'll collect that over the next several years. Property and equipment increased $10.6 million to $28.6 million. And that was the acquisition of Lancaster. We brought over $11 million of assets. Investments increased $3.5 million to $11.4 million. $2.3 million of that, again, from Lancaster. $200,000 from a single donor to our endowment. $400,000 added from board designated endowments, and $600,000 from positive investment returns. Not expecting that again this year, but last year was a good year. Moving over to liabilities. Liabilities increased $3.7 million, or 55%, from $6.7 million to $10.4 million. In this area, Lancaster didn't bring over as much, which is actually a good thing. Accounts payable increased $300,000 to $700,000. $200,000 of that was from Lancaster. We had outstanding audit and tax fees, and not a lot else really to speak of in accounts payable. Long-term debt increased $2.9 million to $7.9 million, and again, it's the issuance of the tax-exempt revenue notes. Just another note on long-term debt. Right now, our monthly debt service is $40,000 a month. Last year for York alone, it was $20,000 a month. Lancaster was also about $20,000 a month, so we're holding about the same for the combined companies. Moving on to the statement of activities. Operating revenues increased $700,000, or 8%, from $8.3 million to $9 million. There's about 5 areas that contributed to that change. Contributions declined by $1 million, from $2.2 million to $1.2 million. The capital campaign is where that decrease occurred. Grants increased $400,000 from $1.7 million to $2.1 million. We continue to reap the benefits of COVID funding. Surprisingly, you think COVID's essentially over, but the funding is still there. And the big change in this year, 2021, was ERC funding of $500,000 that we got in 2021 that was not there in 2020. Program fees increased $400,000 to $2.2 million. Dues and memberships increased $300,000 to $1.5 million. Both are the result of a full year of operations, as I mentioned, with our recovery. Not really anything from Lancaster to speak of, because that acquisition occurred at the end of November, so it's really only 1 month of Lancaster in there. So we'll really see the impact of that in 2022. Some other items that are lumped all together increased $600,000, or $1.9 million, one of which is management fee that we had, and that's income from the management fee with Lancaster. So that was an increase showing of $200,000. And that agreement began in September of 2020, and it was amended in February of 21. So that was the bulk of that increase. And then here also we had an increase on gain on investments. So that increase was $200,000, also the beneficiary of market gains. In operating expenses, we increased $4.3 million, or 57%, up to $11.8 million. Here it's contributions, personnel, and depreciation. Contributions is that $3.2 million that I was talking about that York contributed to Lancaster. And that is what made us have a negative bottom line as far as our reporting deficiency at the year end of 2021. Personnel costs are $500,000 higher. That's primarily due to in 2020 we had the layoffs. I'm sure all of you remember that. And we didn't have that in 2021, so that's skewing the comparison between the 2 years. And then as we move down, we have non-operating changes that we report to get to net assets. Here we report primarily the Lancaster acquisition. So we have the assets that were acquired from Lancaster that you saw throughout the balance sheet, and that's $14.9 million. So that's the net number. So we acquired $15.7 million in assets, liabilities of $700,000. So the bottom line is a change in net assets for 2021 of $12.6 million versus $1.4 million in the prior year. So you can see how those three factors that I pointed out at the beginning really drive the year. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy. A lot of numbers in layperson's terms. A lot of stuff happened. A lot through the merger. A lot of things happened on the balance sheet. But I would say, and I think I can speak with confidence in this. There's a lot of challenges that we have. Yet I can say that the organization is on solid financial footing. And again, we accomplished all this in the midst of the pandemic. And again, it goes back to the courage of the leadership, and I will say the boards and communities generally, because we as staff, or even the board members that have been around, and a lot of the staff members, Greg's retired now, but Karen, people have been around me for 28 years. You know, I'm kind of a ready, shoot, aim person, and it's been, and so I was like all for the merger, and let's do it. Who cares what it means? You know, let's not forget about the numbers. This is a really good thing to save a YMCA, if you will, in our community. That was really important in that community, and I think that again, the courage of the leadership to do that, and then the implementation of the staff, many who were here, many who are here tonight, and many who have joined us along this journey. And as we look forward to the challenges that are going to be in front of us, I think one of the key things is I'm a neophyte historian, as many know, as we look back and say, okay, what are all the things since 1854 and 1855 that these communities and these YMCAs have observed and have overcome in terms of challenges, and most recently, in the last 24 months, what we've overcome, and then when we look forward to see what are some of the challenges we're going to discover in our communities and understand how we respond based on the YMCA cause and mission. So thank you for being here tonight. I think the bar's still open for a little bit. I'm hoping it's going to be open for a little bit. I hope there's still food back there because I haven't eaten nor have I had anything to drink. Well, I had one there. And so, but the plan is to have more. So please stick around if you like, and thank you again for coming. And this ends the annual report for 2021. Thank you.